It's another image that I think is very profound, and that is the experience of peace is what you might call God's kiss. So it implies further expressions of affection, it seems to me. So that if you translate that into the appearance of Jesus on the day after his resurrection to the disciples who were frightened to death of the authorities and were defending themselves behind locked doors, I guess, not knowing what to do and totally confused and bereft. I mean, they really had hit bottom. And they have this word that he might have risen from the dead. They don't know what to do with that. So then he appears in the room. Okay. So, and he says, after saying it twice, I think he said, "Peace be to you." Okay. So this is the experience of centering prayer also, in the same circumstances I described with the plane, but now this is a different image. Christ, in the turmoil, is somehow present. And that presence is like a kiss. It's a sign of loving concern and consolation and reassurance. But it's not just a kiss. He then breathes on them. So now we're dealing with a further level of intimacy. And and he says at the same time what the breathing represents. Receive the Holy Spirit. That is the unqualified and unconditional love of God. So we're dealing with an exchange of love that has raised the ante, you might say, to enormous proportions, and this represents the interpenetration of the divine and human that appears in a number of Jesus' miracles, but which is the psychological and spiritual aspect of the developing spiritual journey. In other words, there's a divine making love that begins with peace, and having established in peace enables us to open ourselves and surrender completely to God. Total receptivity. Remember, that's John of the Cross's description of contemplation in the strict sense. Total receptivity, which is not passivity, but an alert receptivity. And that alertness is due to the sense of presence or the experience of love or reassurance, peace. So remember that in another example of the same, in the healing of the blind man, I think, Jesus spits on the ground, which is the mixture of breath and saliva, and he makes a paste in the dust, it says specifically, and then he puts that on the eye, and the man sees. If you remember, his blindness is cured. So the consolation, as they call it, spiritual consolation, is really the love of God communicating the divine nature or participation into us. And in the case of the apostles, it's certainly an invitation to them to become his bride. If that is a difficulty because of gender, there aren't any gender factors in the divine Trinity. But the soul has always been regarded as a feminine because of its receptive pose. So the apostles then, who part of their laborious masculinity and so on, as fishermen and other things, are being invited to become the bride of God by receiving, after being put in peace, the more intimate communications symbolized by Christ's breath. So the Spirit then pours in the divine light, life, and love, principal themes of the liturgical year, and is really making love to the soul, using that conjugal love as an image that the mystics have always found the most significant image for their experience. So in centering prayer, the peace itself is an indication that the divine therapist has more to give, and hence there's all the more reason to persevere in this progress, and all the more reason to remove the obstacles in us, or to put up with whatever medications or therapeutic sessions are prescribed. But above all, it's the experience of the commingling or the interpenetration of the divine nature into the human nature, symbolized by the spittle and the dust. So the incarnation is this act of love on the grand scale, where God brings the divine in substantial human form into the world, and penetrates the human nature to its depths. Thus, and hence generativity is also a fruit of the process that expressed by the service of others, or by entering into some particular ministry that is demanding.